This isn't just some minor update. Apple's been hard at work under the hood. We're talking about changes that'll affect how you use your phone every single day, whether you're using accessibility features, managing your Apple Cache, or just want things to run a little faster. iOS 18 has something for you now. I know you guys are all about the details, so let's dive right into the good stuff. We'll break down all the major updates, from the big-ticket features to the smaller tweaks that make a real difference. Stick around, because we're also going to highlight some known issues to watch out for. You know, I always keep it 100 with you guys. Let's get started with iOS 18. First up, let's talk about accessibility. Apple's always been on top of making their products usable for everyone, and iOS 18 takes it to the next level. They've resolved a bunch of issues to make the experience even smoother for folks who rely on these features. One of the key improvements is for users who rely on VoiceOver. They've squashed some bugs that were causing issues with pronunciation and navigation, so now things should be much more reliable. No more weird pauses or mispronounced words, just clear and concise voice feedback. They've also made some big strides with AssistiveTouch. This feature is a game changer for people who have difficulty with touch input, and now it's even better. They've improved responsiveness and accuracy, so you can navigate your phone with more precision and control. And check this out, they've even fixed an issue where the screen reader wasn't always announcing notifications correctly. That's a huge quality of life improvement right there. With iOS 18, you can be confident that you'll never miss an important notification, no matter how you use your phone. Okay, now let's talk about those everyday apps we all use. iOS 18 brings some under-the-hood improvements to App Intents, which is basically how apps talk to each other and Siri. What does that mean for you? Well, it means things are about to get a whole lot smoother. Remember those annoying times when you're trying to use Siri to do something and it just doesn't get it right? Like, hey Siri, set an alarm for 8 a.m. and it sets it for p.m. instead. Yeah, hopefully those days are gone. With the improvements to App Intents, Siri's going to be much better at understanding what you want and actually doing it. And it's not just Siri. Your apps are going to work better together too. They'll be able to share information more seamlessly, so you can do things like book a ride in Uber directly from the Maps app without having to jump through hoops. It's all about making your life easier. Plus, they've fixed a bunch of random bugs that were causing apps to crash or freeze. You know, those annoying little glitches that drive you crazy? Yeah, iOS 18 is here to squash those like bugs. Get ready for a much more stable and reliable app experience. Now, let's talk about Apple Cache. This is one of my favorite features on iOS, and they've made it even better with this update. We're talking about improved security, faster transactions, and some cool new features that make it more convenient than ever to use. First up, they've added support for the ad attribution kit in Apple Cache. Now, I know what you're thinking. What the heck is that? Basically, it's a way for app developers to see how effective their ads are at getting people to use Apple Cache. But here's the thing. It also means you might start seeing more relevant and targeted ads within Apple Cache. The good news is that this could also lead to some cool new features and promotions down the line. Plus, Apple's all about privacy, so your data is still safe and sound. Another big update is the improved support for re-engagement. This means that if you haven't used Apple Cache in a while, you might start seeing some gentle reminders and prompts to get you back into it. It's a subtle way for Apple to remind you about all the cool stuff you can do with Apple Cache. And finally, they've made some behind-the-scenes improvements to speed up transactions. So now, when you're sending or receiving money with Apple Cache, it's going to be faster and more reliable than ever. That's what I'm talking about. Section 5, keeping your data safe. Okay, let's talk about security. You know I'm all about keeping your data safe, and Apple's right there with me. iOS 18 comes with a bunch of security enhancements to keep your personal information locked down tight. One of the key areas they've focused on is the Keychain. That's where your iPhone stores all your passwords and other sensitive data. They've beefed up the encryption and security protocols, so it's even harder for hackers to get their grubby little hands on your stuff. They've also addressed a bunch of vulnerabilities that were discovered in previous versions of iOS. These are basically like little cracks in the software that hackers could potentially exploit, but don't worry, Apple's patched them all up so you can rest easy knowing your data is safe and sound, and Here's a pro tip: make sure you always update to the latest version of iOS. That's because Apple's constantly working on improving security, and each update usually comes with the latest patches and fixes. So stay updated, stay safe. Section 6, a more stable iOS. Now let's talk about stability. Nobody likes it when their phone crashes or freezes, right? Well, Apple's been hard at work making iOS 18 rock solid. They've addressed a ton of bugs and issues that were causing problems in previous versions. One of the key areas they've focused on is memory management. That's basically how your iPhone uses and allocates RAM. They've made some tweaks and optimizations to make sure apps run smoother and don't crash as often. They've also addressed some issues with battery life. Some users were reporting that their battery was draining faster than usual in iOS 17. Well, Apple's listened to the feedback and they've made some adjustments to improve battery performance in iOS 18. Overall, iOS 18 feels snappier and more responsive than ever before. Apps launch faster, scrolling is smoother, and there are fewer hiccups along the way. It's the kind of polish and refinement you expect from a new iOS update. Section 7. What's fixed behind the scenes? Now let's dive into some of the less glamorous but equally important updates. We're talking about the stuff that most people don't even notice, but it makes a big difference in how well your phone runs. For example, they've made a bunch of improvements to the networking stack. That's basically the software that handles all your Wi-Fi and cellular connections. What does that mean for you? Well, it means faster download and upload speeds, more reliable connections, and fewer dropped calls. They've also made some tweaks to the graphics processing unit, or GPU. This is the part of your iPhone's brain that handles all the graphics-intensive tasks like gaming and video playback. The updates in iOS 18 mean smoother frame rates, better graphics performance, and less lag. And for all you developers out there, they've also made some improvements to Xcode, which is the software you use to create iOS apps. These updates will make it easier for developers to build amazing apps for iOS 18. So expect to see even more great apps hitting the App Store soon. Section 8, things to watch out for. Now, it wouldn't be an MKB HD video without a healthy dose of reality, right? While iOS 18 is a great update overall, there are a few known issues that you should be aware of. Don't worry, it's nothing major, but it's always good to be prepared. One issue some users have reported is that certain Bluetooth devices aren't connecting properly after the update. This seems to be affecting a small number of users, and Apple is already aware of the issue. They're working on a fix, but in the meantime, you might have to try repairing your devices or resetting your network settings. Another issue is that some users have reported that the battery life indicator isn't accurate after updating to iOS 18. This means your phone might say you have 50% battery left when you actually have less. Again, Apple is aware of this issue and they're working on a fix. In the meantime, you can try restarting your phone or recalibrating your battery. Remember, these issues are affecting a small number of users, so you might not even experience them. But it's always good to be aware of these things, just in case. Section 9, the future of iOS. So what does iOS 18 tell us about the future of iOS? Well, I think it shows that Apple is committed to making iOS even better. They're listening to user feedback, addressing issues, and adding new features that enhance the user experience. I think we can expect to see even more focus on performance, stability, and security in future iOS updates. Apple knows that these are the things that matter most to users, and they're going to keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. I'm also excited to see what kind of new features Apple comes up with in the future. They're always innovating and pushing the envelope, so I'm sure they've got some surprises up their sleeve. Section 10, iOS 18, a solid upgrade. So there you have it, guys. iOS 18, it's a solid upgrade that brings a bunch of new features, improvements, and fixes. If you're still on the fence about updating, I say go for it. You won't be